The envelope sat on the welcome mat. No stamp, no return address, just his name. Ethan bent down, flipping it over. The paper felt thick, expensive. Someone wanted this to feel important. Inside, just a single note. Victoria was disposable. Prescott isn't the top of the chain. Walk away while you still can. A slow exhale. A familiar, sinking feeling. Threats didn't scare him. But this wasn't just a threat, it was a warning. And whoever sent it knew exactly what they were doing. He turned, scanning the street. Quiet. Too quiet. He reached for his phone, pulling up the security camera feed. Error. Camera not found. Ethan's jaw tightened. Someone had been here. Someone had wiped the footage. A low hum caught his ear. His gaze flicked to the street. A black sedan idled a few houses down. Tinted windows. No plates. Not a neighbor. Ethan grabbed his keys. Time to see if they wanted to play. The sedan followed, a few car lengths back. Never too close, never too far. Amateurs. Ethan kept his hands steady on the wheel. He could lose them easily. But this wasn't about running. It was about confirming his suspicion. A sudden right turn. Then, another. Then one more. The sedan followed. Ethan exhaled. Yeah. He had their attention. Whoever was behind Lockwood Enterprises, they weren't done with him yet. And now? Now it was personal. Hey, real quick. If you're enjoying the video so far, make sure to hit that like button, share it with friends, and subscribe for more awesome content. And while you're at it, drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from. All right. Let's keep going. Alan Prescott was gone. No press release, no news reports, just vanished. Ethan sat at his desk, staring at the police database. No recent activity, no recorded travel. The man had slipped off the grid like he'd never existed. Not normal. Ethan pulled out his phone. He still had contacts, good ones, people, who owed him favors. First call, straight to voicemail. Second, same. By the fourth unanswered call, his gut tightened. People were shutting him out, not out of caution, out of fear. Something bigger was at play. Prescott had been a puppet. Ethan knew that now. But who had been pulling the strings? He leaned forward, fingers flying over the keyboard. Time to dig. Financial records, offshore accounts, hidden transactions. Prescott had been careful, but not careful enough. A shell company in the Cayman Islands, another in Switzerland, all tied back to Lockwood Enterprises. But then, something else. One name. Buried deep. Nathaniel Lockwood. Not Graham Lockwood, the real estate mogul Ethan had been tracking. Nathaniel. Ethan's fingers hovered over the keys. His mind raced. Who the hell was Nathaniel Lockwood? A chair squeaked behind him. Margot. She'd been silent, watching over his shoulder. When she spoke, her voice was low. Unsteady. You just found it, didn't you? Ethan turned. Her face was pale. You know who he is? He asked. Margot swallowed hard. Nodded. Yeah, she whispered. And if you go after him, you might not make it out alive. The front door was open, just an inch. Barely noticeable. But Ethan knew. His hand hovered near his holster as he stepped inside. Quiet. Careful. The air felt wrong. He scanned the room. Nothing broken. Nothing trashed. But his desk drawer, slightly ajar. Ethan moved closer. Pulled it open. His case files. Gone. His stomach tightened. They hadn't come for money. They came for information. That meant whoever was behind this wasn't just watching. They were playing. His phone rang. Unknown number. He let it ring twice before answering. A low, distorted voice. You should have listened, Chief. Ethan's grip tightened. You took something of mine. A slow chuckle. You keep pushing, you'll lose. More than files. Ethan's jaw flexed. That a threat? A pause. No. A promise. The line went dead. Ethan lowered the phone. Exhaled. He wasn't scared. He was pissed. They wanted him to walk away. But now? Now it was war. The first sound was the click of a lock. Ethan's eyes snapped open. His bedroom was dark, but his instincts screamed. He wasn't alone. He reached for his gun. Too late. The door slammed open. Shadows moved fast. 3 men. Masks. Gloves. Ethan rolled off the bed as the first one lunged. A knife flashed in the dark. A miss. Barely. Ethan caught his attacker's wrist, twisted hard. A sickening pop. A grunt of pain. The guy dropped the knife. Ethan didn't. Footsteps behind him. Another attacker. Ethan spun. Too slow. A fist slammed into his ribs. Pain. Sharp. Breath stealing. He staggered but kept his grip on the knife. Another. Hit. His side this time. They were fast. Trained. But not cops. Hired muscle. Ethan gritted his teeth. That made them sloppy. He used it against them. Stepped inside the next punch. Drove the knife into a thigh. A scream. A body hit the floor. The third man hesitated. Mistake. Ethan grabbed a lamp, swung hard. Glass shattered. The guy stumbled back. Ethan lunged. But the first attacker, the one with the broken wrist, was back on his feet. This time, with a gun. A split second. Not enough time. The barrel flashed. Pain tore through Ethan's shoulder. His vision blurred. His grip slipped. A voice. Low. Steady. Enough. Get the drive. Ethan hit the ground. Footsteps pounded toward his office. The USB drive. Margot's files. Everything on Lockwood. Enterprises. Ethan tried to push himself up. His body wouldn't cooperate. Damn it. Drawers opened. Papers rustled. Then, silence. A figure loomed over him. A masked man crouched, close enough for Ethan to hear his breath. Then he whispered, "You're running out of time, Chief." A sharp pain to the side of Ethan's head. Then, darkness. Ethan's shoulder throbbed. His head pounded, but he didn't have time for pain. He pressed the ice pack harder against the wound. Eyes locked on Margot. She looked nervous, pale, which meant she knew something. Something bad. "Say it," Ethan muttered. Margot swallowed hard. "You were right," she said. "Prescott wasn't the top. Lockwood runs deeper than we thought." Ethan exhaled. "How deep?" She hesitated. Then, "The department, Ethan." Silence. Ethan felt it like a punch to the gut. "The hell does that mean?" he asked, voice low. Margot shifted in her seat, avoided his eyes. "I did some digging. Bank records, transfers. There's money moving through accounts tied to Lockwood Enterprises." Ethan clenched his jaw. "Whose accounts?" Margot finally met his eyes, and that's when he knew. He wasn't going to like the answer. She took a breath. "You're Captain Ethan." The words hit like a hammer. Captain Harris, a cop he'd trusted for years. A man who had his back in the worst of times. Ethan felt his pulse in his ears. "That's not possible," he said. "Harris wouldn't—" Margot slid a folder across the table. Ethan opened it. Bank statements. Offshore deposits. Millions. And then, at the bottom, his own name. The room tilted. His badge number. His payroll records. A transaction under his name. A bribe. Except he never took it. Ethan's fists clenched. His mind raced. They weren't just corrupt. They were framing him. Margot's voice was barely a whisper. "They're making it look like you've been on Lockwood's payroll for years." Ethan stood. Paced. His mind fired in 100 directions. "Who else knows?" he asked. Margot shook her head. "Not sure, but it won't matter." Ethan's phone buzzed. A text. "Captain Harris. My office. Now." Ethan exhaled slowly. He knew what was coming. He grabbed his gun, his badge. But deep down, he already knew it was over. The meeting was short. Harris didn't look angry, didn't even look surprised, just disappointed. "You forced my hand," Harris said, shaking his head. "You went too far, Ethan." Ethan didn't sit. "This is a setup." Harris sighed. "Doesn't matter. The department's under too much heat. I have to make a decision." He reached into his desk, pulled out a suspension notice. Ethan stared at it. Harris met his eyes. "You're done, Cole." Ethan took the paper. Didn't react, didn't argue. Because it wasn't just a suspension. It was a warning. They wanted him out. They wanted him scared, but they just made a mistake. Because Ethan Cole? He wasn't backing down. He was just getting started. The house was dead silent. Ethan crouched low, his breath steady, eyes scanning the abandoned property, boarded-up windows, overgrown yard. Another home stolen by Lockwood Enterprises, but he wasn't here for the house. He was here for what was inside. The back door gave way with a sharp creak. Darkness swallowed him as he stepped in. Dust hung in the air. Whoever had been here last left in a hurry. Papers were scattered across the floor. Ethan moved carefully, sweeping his flashlight over the walls. Then he saw it. A metal filing cabinet, half open. He reached inside. Thick folders. Pages yellowed, names typed in bold. His fingers skimmed through. Dozens of names. People who used to live here, people who had been forced out, and then his stomach tightened. Ethan Cole. His pulse slowed. Deliberate. Controlled. Someone planned this. Someone wanted him gone. Ethan flipped through the documents. Eviction notices. Bank seizures. Property transfers. It was all there. Every foreclosure. Every lie. But this wasn't just fraud. This was a system. A pipeline. Designed to erase people. A noise? Footsteps. Ethan froze. Not the creak of an old house settling. Someone was here. He slipped behind a doorway, breath slow, grip tightening on his gun. The footsteps stopped. A voice. Low. Calm. Too confident. You just couldn't leave it alone, could you? Ethan knew that voice. He stepped forward, gun raised, and there he was. Mayor Alan Prescott, the judge's brother. The man behind it all, smiling, like he'd already won. Ethan sat in his truck, phone in hand. One message. Just enough bait. Sent. Meet me at the docks. Midnight. I have everything. Then he waited. If Prescott took the bait, he'd show up. If not, Ethan was already dead. Midnight. The docks stretched out in eerie silence. Ethan stood under a single flickering light, hands in his pockets, his phone recording. A black SUV rolled up. Doors opened. 2 men first. Armed. Then Prescott stepped out. No smile this time. Just cold calculation. You really think you can win this, Cole? Ethan exhaled, casual. I think I already have. He tapped his phone. Prescott's eyes flickered. Realization. You're recording. Yep. Prescott took a step closer. His voice dropped. You don't understand who you're up against. Ethan didn't move, didn't blink. Then tell me. A pause. Then Prescott laughed. All right, Chief, here's how it works. And he started talking. The pipeline, the bribes, the entire operation. Laid out in chilling detail. Ethan let him talk. Let him hang himself. Then, engines, tires screeching. From the shadows, squad cars appeared. The cops Ethan could still trust. Prescott's face twisted. You set me up. Ethan smirked. Yep. The first cop stepped out. Gun raised. Alan Prescott, hands where I can see them. The hired muscle panicked. One ran. Another drew a weapon. A bad decision. A fast one. Gunfire cracked through the night. Ethan hit the ground as bullets tore through metal and concrete. The fight was quick, brutal. 1 officer hit, 2 enforcers down, and Prescott gone. A black car peeled away into the night. Ethan clenched. His jaw. He should have seen it coming. Prescott had resources. An escape plan. But now Ethan had something better. Proof. And that meant? Prescott was living on borrowed time. The dust had settled. Victoria, gone. Prescott on the run. Lockwood's operation exposed. Ethan should have felt relief. Instead, all he felt was the weight of unfinished business. Because men like Prescott, they didn't go down that easy. The morning air was crisp. Quiet. Ethan stepped onto his porch, coffee in hand. Then he saw it. An envelope. No stamp. No return address. Just like before, his pulse stayed steady. His mind didn't. Slowly, he picked it up, tore it open. 1 sentence. You won this round, but you have no idea how deep this goes. Ethan exhaled. His fingers tightened around the note. A slow, knowing smile tugged at his lips. Good. He'd been looking for a new fight, and now it had just found him. If you enjoyed this video and want to see the next part, let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to. Stay updated. See you in the next one. Your support means the world.